What's up, guys? And welcome to episode 10 of Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm your host, Nick DeMaria. Fuck yeah, man. Double digits. Yeah, so double digits. If you don't mind me patting myself on the back, I'll just be over here, so I appreciate it. The one of the themes of the show is the bar is very low, so I'm really excited to celebrate 10 episodes of this podcast with you. This is great. Definitely making me smile right now because I feel like since I got to 10, it won't be long before we get to 20 and many more from there. So, like I said earlier in the show, I always wanted to have a podcast for the New Haven Jazz Underground, and it seems like it's going to happen. So, yeah, awesome. So, listen, on today's episode, which went very long, longer than usual. So, there's actually not going to be a monologue for this episode because just went super long with my guest, baritone saxophonist, multi-reedist, Anthony Pellegrini. Anthony is a great guy, and I knew that we would have a conversation that went long. I knew we were going to derail and start talking about Star Wars and everything, and sure as hell that's what we did. So the episode does get really long. So there's no monologue section. Let me just do the housekeeping, and then I'll give Anthony a intro, and then that'll be the episode. So real quick, Mr. Millennial's Revenge is a production of the New Haven Jazz Underground, which is a grassroots community-based organization dedicated to concerts, clinics, and jam sessions, all in the name of jazz in the great city of New Haven, Connecticut. And how do we make it happen? Well, we do through small contributions from normal, everyday people like yourself. And how can you do that? Well, go to patreon.com/NHJU and sign up. You could sign up for as low as $2 a month, $2. And you can help us continue our Mind the Hang Jazz series, which has been going on. We just had a show for December featuring the band Incredislap. Their show will be featured on our YouTube channel soon. And on our YouTube channel is where you can find all of our Mind the Hang concerts, and it's a great way to keep the music alive during this tough time. So all of the money raised for that show was through contributions. So thank you to our current patrons. Please sign up, guys. It's super. You're not even going to miss the money. I promise you. So please sign up. Patreon.com/NHVJU. Patreon.com/NHVJU. Getting it stuck in your head so you remember. Anyway, like I said at the top of the show, this episode ran super, super long. So we are going to skip the formalities, skip the monologue, get right to the interview with Anthony. So let's do that. So real quick, Anthony Pellegrini, I've known him for a few years. I met him when he was just a wee lad. He was the twig version of Groot when I met him. Now he's the gigantic version from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Anthony is a baritone saxophonist, flautist, oboist, clarinetist, soprano saxophonist. The guy plays it all. He does a lot of pit gigs, and I think it's really awesome that he's pursued playing multi-reeds. I think that's like a really great trade to have, and he does it so well. He's also a great guy, fan of history, fan of Star Wars, so him and I naturally are friends. So it was great to have him on. He just had a record drop, or he recorded it, I believe, and it will be dropping soon, so we're going to talk about that. So yeah, let's get to it. This is my interview with Anthony Pellegrini. Hope you like it. Welcoming to the Mr. Millennial studio is saxophonist Regis Anthony Pellegrini. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right, man. How are we doing today?
Not bad. Not bad for a Wednesday, you know?
Not bad for a Wednesday
Yeah,
first.
yeah. You know, every day is pretty much the same, but
Oh,
I try,
jeez, yeah.
one thing I definitely do is I make sure that I change my shirt every day. Well, obviously my underwear, but like
Cool.
I think if I wasn't changing my shirt, that would be a problem because then, you're wearing stuff that might have a mustard stain from a sandwich you ate the day before, or that's when you start to run down this idle hands path that you don't want to find yourself in the 26th month of COVID. So I try to like stay productive. So, but I can't complain because it is what it is, right?
Oh God, man, you're telling me. I mean, I follow that. I try to follow that rule. I will say, if there's no much mustard stain, or from my house ketchup stain, or tomato stain, uh, the shirt, sometimes I'll wear the same shirt if I'm not leaving the house. But I'm showering basically every day. Maybe one day
That's
I'll take a
important.
day off, but
Yeah.
But actually, the real question. Let me ask you this. I know you're asking
Oh yeah.
questions. How are you feeling? Um,
I thank you. I'm doing well. I confessed in the last episode that that I've gotten over COVID. Yeah. Thank you for
thank
asking.
God, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did some detective work, and I'm 99% sure I got it from my nephew who was attending school in person.
Oh,
So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm a teacher, but I've been remote since the school year started. And I used to joke, I used to say to my wife, because I was supposed to go back into the building November 9th, but that's when cases started spiking, so they kept us home. And I used to joke to my wife, uh, we're gonna get it because I'm gonna get it from school, or we're gonna get it from one of our nephews. We have four nephews, three are school aged, and it's nothing against them. It's just I know how kids are in school, you know. Uh,
yeah.
so so it was bound to happen. So the one nephew out of the three who was still attending school in person is the first one to get sick. So luckily I
Jeez.
love him to death, so he's off the hook. But yeah, no, it sucked, man. Losing my sense of taste and smell, that was the weirdest part. And it was right in time for Thanksgiving. So like, my mom had made us Thanksgiving dinner and dropped it off to us, and we literally could not smell it or taste it. And we have a dog and a cat, and I'm like, I wonder if the house smells like a cat box, and we have no idea.
Oh man.
Because you don't. You like, it was so weird. I've lost my sense of taste and smell before because I've had a cold. So I've been stuffed up when that happens. Like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
my nose is clogged. There's nothing coming through, right? That there's like a physical association that goes with that. When you could feel the airstream going through your breathing cavities and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't perceive anything, that's weird. And that was the and that like added to like the psychological aspect of having it, because it was just like, what the fuck is this? you know
Yeah, man. That's just I'm sorry, man. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, you're not alone in the world. You and your wife. I mean,
yeah.
first and foremost, God bless that you, both of you, right? Both of you are feeling much better and
Yeah,
everything's.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so so my wife's symptoms were kind of like a few days behind mine. So she got better a little later than I did. But
Mm-hmm.
it's funny, man, because like she'll hold a candle up to her face and she's like, I think I can smell this,
Oh
and
God, man.
her sense of smell is like coming back slower than mine, which is it's crazy. We bought
Yeah,
we
man.
bought Christmas candy last night, and she's like, I can kind of taste this. And I was just like,
Oh
oh yeah, it sucks.
no, no, yeah.
It adds to the the loneliness that the era of COVID has created. Even though like we're together, obviously, but
Right.
it's just the two of us. There is this like stranded island effect people are feeling. So when you can't even taste like a meal, it just makes it worse.
Yeah, that just sounds. Yeah, that I never thought of it like that. Stranded island, because already with the quarantining, but that just adds another layer. And honestly, I mean, yes, everything that I've heard, of course, with breathing, just like everything that you can get in the most severe cases, like I just feel like the losing my taste or smell for me would suck like
Yeah.
completely, because I love to smell food. I love to smell, just like, the air. I was in Vermont like about a month and a half ago, and just thinking like, what if I hadn't been able to smell that, and then just
Yeah.
tasting, like I love food, man. And if I can't taste like good food, but that's like, when you think about it, what can happen, obviously, versus that's low on the list. But for me, that just sounds like one of the most scariest parts of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, and I've said this ad nauseum. Like, we're very grateful that we didn't get the version, or it didn't affect us in a way that like put us in the hospital. Like I can't stress that enough.
Hmm.
However, I will acknowledge that we got some kind of minor form of it, or at least we're young and healthy enough where it didn't get as bad as it has gotten for some people. So, it's when I look back on it, it's going to look like a major inconvenience for me, which is
Hmm.
like I'm way more grateful for than the people who have lost loved ones over this. I mean, it's just enough's fucking enough. What was the last gig you played? Like legit gig. What was the last one you played?
Actually, so back, and I remember because it was the day after my birthday. So it was July 29th of this past summer. I had a gig with the Rock This Town Orchestra.
Okay.
And that was actually, yeah, legit. But I mean, thinking back, if I want to say like,
Yeah, I mean like pre-COVID, because
oh,
COVID
okay.
for some reason like COVID gigs are going to be in their own category.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm talking pre-COVID gig here.
Okay, yeah. I was doing, I just literally had wrapped up a run at Marist College doing a pit gig. What was the show? Chicago, up in Marist
Okay.
College, just a
Yeah.
normal,
Yeah.
2-week run, really fun. Lots of, beautiful campus up there, but just the whole thing was a great time, great musicians. And that was it. That was my last real playing gig. Maybe I had gone to a few shows right leading up to the whole shutdown. I was there, but in
Yeah.
terms of gigs, yes, the Marist College. So
Yeah, I could say my last pre-COVID gig was March 8th. It was my brunch gig, and
yes.
I had a full weekend coming up. I've said this before on the show. I had a full weekend coming up, and everything got canceled like real quick. And I was
Hmm.
like, at first, I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. Maybe I'll like, and I'll relax, because when they sent us home from school, I didn't have to teach. I just had to like give the kids busy work because we were going to be back in 2 weeks. So it was this
Yes.
weird, like, ooh, we're getting spring break early this year. That's all it was at that point. So I remember welcoming like the break in gigs. I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
I could use a few, a few nights off, like, catch up on some binge TV or something. You know what I mean? Spend some time with, with the missus. But yeah, now it's December, so it's like, oh, forget it. I would die I'd sell my soul for the chance to be booked 4 days in a row and be tired about it. I'll never complain
Man.
about it again. I swear to God. I say this
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time.
man. No, no. Hey, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think, I remember because I made a post, uh, social media post, just like a joke. Like it was literally the 20th something day of COVID, and I was already like, I won't complain about anything again if
I
everything can
know.
just go back to the way it was.
It really broke a lot of people real quick.
Yeah, man. No, hey, I'll be the first to say, like, I ain't gonna lie. There was times, this was, we're talking, I guess maybe probably April-ish. Yeah, mainly April. I just remember April was really bleak. I was just sitting in my room. I literally fired up the PS4 because of this whole thing. I
Yeah.
bought a PS4 from my friend like 2.5 years ago. No, 2 years ago. Really good, because he's my boy. He gave me a good deal, but I never touched it because, hey, I got
Right.
all this stuff going on.
Right. We're busy. We're busy
And
people.
we're busy people. And then,
Yeah.
and I ain't gonna lie, I've been playing some PS4 and it was bleak, but basically I think since at least the fall, no, late summer, I feel like I've been at least kind of in a routine, at least practicing
Yeah.
wise. But oh man, yeah. Well,
Yeah, no,
you've been living
yeah,
it.
for
So
for sure. Like, I think a lot of people, yeah, April, in definitely May. Basically, the 30 days where we knew this was going to be way longer than we were expecting. That's when it was the darkest for everybody. I would
yeah.
talk to you. I would talk, yeah, other colleagues of ours. And most of them were pretty unmotivated because it was just like, job after job was getting canceled. Students were getting
Hmm.
canceled. You know, it was just like day after day of bad news. And now I feel like I'm kind of in like this numb, like going through the motions. phase, because it's like, well, it seems like the light is at the end of the tunnel. Who knows when that will be, and I don't want to
Oh
get
man.
too optimistic because I don't want to be let down.
Yeah,
Which is
man.
like,
I mean, ooh.
you
Sorry, what
know,
was that?
no, it's such a cynical way of looking at things, but
God, yeah.
fuck 2020, man. Like, what can we do?
Yeah, what can we do? I mean, I remember, and this was even in April. I was like, you know what? Okay, if this was, for me, uh, I mean, even through this, maybe it's kind of matured me just a little bit. But I've always been trying to be like positive outlook. Well, yeah. If we all now get me, this was my thinking. If we, I guess, as a country, if we follow these, these lockdown rules, if we follow these quarantine rules, it'll be over by the middle of summer.
Yeah.
And the whole Memorial Day weekend happened. I'm like, ah, great.
Remember the hashtag. Remember the hashtags. Like, in this together, stay the fuck home. Now it seems like everyone just fucking gave up, dude. It's so sad, man. Everyone. It just feels like left and right people have just given up, and it's depressing as hell. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I try to stay positive about things. I haven't done this much transcribing in like a decade. I haven't done this much listening
Hmm.
in for such a long time. So, yeah, I've been playing more video games than I have in a very long time, but I there are other ways to spend the time, basically. So it's just, so I'm just always motivated to, like, keep, put it this way. My mantra has been like, be ready to come, like, be ready on the horn to come, like, right out of the gate. It almost as if, like, all of a sudden a pistol's gonna go off, and it's like a race, and gigs are back, playing's back. I want to be in tip top shit. I want to be ready. I want to be right in the front line. So that's kept me motivated to shed, and
Yeah, yeah. That's
and
great.
you just shed. I've been shedding things that, like, maybe academically were shunned or were not a priority, maybe a melody that has nothing to do with anything, or a solo that has, no real musical value, quote unquote. They all have musical value, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm transcribing for fun as opposed to, like, building the skill, you
You
know.
know, First and foremost, I mean, this might sound kind of corny, cliche, but I've always kind of, at least when I reached a point where I, like, kind of was just me, I guess, if that, again, here we go with the corny stuff. But it always should be about fun, shouldn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah,
You'll agree,
for
and
sure.
you'll agree. Obviously,
Oh
you've
yeah,
said,
yeah,
I've heard you say that.
yeah.
So I mean, I never, I guess, you obviously, I just don't, not to do this. Just don't look down at that stuff. I don't want to say it like that, but there is value in everything, and plus, do what you want. If you want to transcribe a Miles solo from the '80s, and that's kind of uh being,
Yeah,
when
jazz
just talking
taboo,
about.
basically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
dude, it's just about the fun. You enjoy that. I mean,
sure.
dude, you see sometimes I'm just like doing stupid shit with like the flute or clarinet or the
Yeah,
saxophone.
yeah.
And it's fun. Dude, I was working on the the Krusty Krab theme from
Nice.
SpongeBob on
Yeah.
Piccolo. And it's just fun, because I had my students playing it, and that's another thing actually. If anything has kept me really grounded during all this, it's the fact that I lost a few students. I lost maybe 4 or 5, but I've been keeping most of my students, both
Sure.
through creative music and private.
Yep.
And for one, I'm so thankful that the kids are still in it and the parents kept them in it. And
Yeah.
it's just it keeps me. It's like, well, if they're being serious, I gotta kind of be serious. I can play,
Yeah.
an hour or two of video games, but I should be practicing and just trying to come up with stuff to keep them what's the word, just going, and they do, and I'm proud of these kids,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Well, definitely at this point, having things to do during the day that are
Yeah.
not time wasters are super important. But Anthony, let's talk more about you, man. I've known you for a couple of years, but I feel like I've been taking advantage of the listening audience for this show and assuming that they all know all of my guests. But, like, give us the rundown. You went to school at WestCon. Tell us about
Yep.
yourself, influences, where you went to school. Um, and then we'll get to this new record. I want to dive into that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So give us the 411 on Anthony Pellegrini.
Yeah, so I'm from Portchester, New York. Now, when I say that, I get a blank stare. But for you
I know where it is.
Connecticutians, well, but a lot of
What did you
people,
call me? A kinetic what?
Connecticutian, is that the right term to
I
describe a
think
person?
I love conversations like this. So
Ah,
I think we're officially kinetic cutters, but
Kinetic cutters,
but I always thought we should be Canetians. And
Canadians. I
yeah,
like that.
but you continue. I'm gonna look up. I'm googling right now. What is a person from Connecticut called? But
Oh yeah, all right.
I'm aware of Portchester. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Portchester for anyone from Connecticut listening or just in general. Just think about Greenwich, and it's literally over the border in New York. Right there, I could actually walk to Greenwich from my house, but it's really cold, so I'm not doing that. I see from my window, I'm seeing flakes of snow.
Nice.
Anyway, so yeah, I was born here, raised here. I still live here. I went to all the elementary schools, middle schools, Portchester High School. Yeah, yay.
You guys have
I,
you guys have a good music program, or are you a sore thumb just kind of sticking out there?
nothing against Portchester. I feel like I was kind of a sore thumb because don't get me wrong though. Looking back, I had very excellent teachers. It's the people. You could have the greatest teachers in the world, but tap the help program. But there being said, I had some classmates who actually were very talented musicians.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, and I don't know if they'll ever listen to this, but my boy Nate Winchester, he was a saxophonist. And he's actually, he's my boy, man. I respect Nate a lot. He's serving in the army right now. But
Nice.
I'm getting a little off. But he was a very talented saxophone player. His father was is a singer. But in Portchester, I had great teachers. In middle school, I had Ken Kraut and Linda McDermott, who were great, very kind people. And I had the great Bob Vitti. If any marching people are listening, I think they'll recognize the name Bob Vitti. But
Yeah,
what I'm getting at
I
is
feel like
that,
that name rings a bell from.
yeah, he's been entrenched. He's retired now. He deserves it. To be retired, he worked a very prolific career. But what I'm getting at is that Portchester, especially once you reach the high school, it's marching band dominated,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was in that kind of zone. I was a marching band kid at first, but man, I really didn't actually, believe it or not, music wise, I didn't get serious about music till I was a freshman in high school. Now, quick backtrack. I actually started, my first primary instrument was the clarinet.
Okay.
And why? Because my grandfather played the clarinet. I just wanted to play the clarinet like grandpa.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I didn't practice. I didn't take it seriously. One thing, I did have an ear, I guess, because I do recall in middle school, we had our sectional, and I'm kind of on the side. I was always just like kind of the kid who was just there because I couldn't play. I'll tell you straight up. Back then, I couldn't play, but I figured out the Jurassic Park theme by ear. And I remember
Nice.
Mrs. McDermott got so excited. She said, "I hear you playing that very good," and I was like, "Oh, But
Yeah.
but now fast forward, freshman year of high school, I had been switched to tenor sax, so I was playing tenor sax, and I was still, I could play, but I was just like, I was that kid, you had to remind them all the articulations, like you have to play like
Sure.
this, you're playing too loud, dude, all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then honestly, I hate to say it like this, but this is how it happened. I did not like my saxophone section. I was actually the only guy, and I just didn't. I thought they were mean people. I just didn't like being around
Okay.
them.
Fair enough.
And I was like,
This is
I want out.
This is saxophonist in general or tenor saxophonist?
Probably tenor. I don't know, man. That instrument in me. Oh man.
Yeah.
I think it's just a saxophone thing. I don't know. And plus it's just a school thing. But I was just like, I was the only guy in the section. I couldn't. I was talking to the girls and stuff, but like I was just like, I just hate it here, and I was like, I want to switch. And there was only one other baritone saxophone player, my friend to this day, Eduardo Gonzalez, a good dude. He's a funny dude, but I was like, I want to switch, So
Yeah.
now here I am. I'm going to switch to a bari sax. I don't know about it, so what do I do? And I still do stuff like this to this day. If I don't know something, I go to Wikipedia, And I'm looking at the Wikipedia article, blah, blah, blah. I know I'm kind of stretching this out, but I was reading players. Harry Carney comes up. Harry Carney, Duke Ellington. Okay, I've heard of Duke Ellington plays jazz. I'll look it up. Went on YouTube. The power of YouTube, obviously. Can't stress that enough. And one of the first things that popped up was the black and white video of Harry Carney with Duke Ellington playing Sophisticated Lady.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, and I listened, and I ain't gonna lie, man, I'm not trying to sound corny or anything. This is real stuff. Like, I was in my room, it was late at night, I'm just watching it start to finish, and I was just like, that is the coolest shit I've ever heard and seen, just watching that, you know? And
Yeah,
I
man.
swear to God, yeah, from that day, I was like, I want to play jazz, you know? And
Yeah.
that's kind of how it started. And, you know, I had a private teacher, Mr. Anthony Macy. You know, he taught me a whole lot in the very beginning, like fundamentals, all that stuff. And we started getting into it. And he started hipping me to some guys. James Carter. I don't know. You listen to a lot of James Carter at all? Or
Like the smooth jazz guy, right? James Carter?
No, from Detroit.
No. Maybe there's
Trent,
another James Carter. But
there.
hold on 1 second. I gotta pause you there for a second, and we're back. Sorry about that.
And we're back.
So you were saying James Carter you were talking about.
James Carter, yeah, guy from Detroit. He was like, you know, Wynton Marsalis era. He rose up with Wynton Marsalis.
Oh, okay. Who?
Very.
There's definitely like a. I swear to God, there's like a smooth guy named James Carter.
Interesting. It's the first
Maybe
time
I'm like,
hearing of it.
yeah, I'm probably super wrong.
No, that's all right.
But anyway, go ahead. You were saying James Carter.
Yeah, once you listen to James Carter, the one I'm talking about, you'll be like, oh, this is not smooth. He's a phenomenal saxophone player, but he goes a little crazy. But that was like one of my first legit jazz players I was kind of introduced to. And now, believe it or not, and then we'll get to the good years of college. But I don't know if this was ever evident whenever you've heard me play, or if anyone's ever heard me at any point. I was actually a huge Jerry Mulligan guy.
Okay.
Love Jerry Mulligan. I love listening to all his stuff with Chet Baker, everybody, Bob Brookmeyer, Art Farmer. And I was like, man, I want to play like Jerry Mulligan, you know, and that was kind of the thing. And yeah, actually, I remember too, my freshman year, that was one of the first time I met and I saw and met Gary Schmolian. And he's been a huge influence. But yeah, so fast forward, got out of high school, and I had applied to WestCon, and I got in. So I went there because it, you know, looked pretty good. And I found myself studying with now, he wasn't a doctor then, but now he is, rightfully so, Dr. Jimmy Green.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna ask, who did you study with, Jimmy Green or Beals, or who were you with up there?
Well, the thing is, I had one moment with everybody. You know, I was with Jimmy the first 2 years primarily. I took lessons with Jimmy the first 2.5 years primarily. I actually, believe it or not, I snuck in a couple of lessons with Dr. Goebel while he was still the dean. Yep.
He was still the dean when you got there. Wow. Okay. Because I always forget when he went out west. So what year was that then? Like.
So that was the end of 2015 was his last year as the dean of WestCon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He just ran.
Goebel, man.
Yeah, he just ran the jazz program when I first started there.
Yes, that was his history, and I heard it was something. I heard it was really good.
Yeah. I've told you a bunch of stories about Doc Goebel.
Oh yeah.
I feel, I mean, you know, what am I saying? You know, not to toot the horn of the era I was there, but anyone who was there when Doc Goebel ran the jazz program will definitely, like, I'm confident they will agree with me that it was a special time to be a student at Western there.
I wish I could have experienced.
He was like in the trenches with us. Yeah.
Well, hey, I mean, from what I saw, I was only there 1 year, you know, so I don't really. You had him 4 years as the jazz. You know, you had a much more intimate. But man, to this day, Dr. Dan Goebel, man, there's not anybody like him.
He's a cat. He's a
cat.
Mostly a classical guy. That's the crazy thing. He would never tell you he was a jazz player. He ran a jazz program.
he did, but did you know this? He plays like a mean oboe.
I think I did know he played oboe because every once in a while Doc would show up like in symphony orchestra, or like wind ensemble or whatever the hell they called it. He was always, he'd always be like filling in if they're like on a double read, most likely, you know, something that we didn't have too many of.
Yeah, man. And I respect that. Like the guy, he would just show up and he would fill in. Like, man, I love that dude, man. God bless him. And like I was saying, so I snuck in a few lessons with him, and he gave me some insightful stuff. And just like, and the thing is, I I'm a freshman. I walk into the dean's office, and there he is. His secretary's gone. I'm like, hey doc, can I ask you some questions about the saxophones? And he goes, are you free this day? I'm like, what? Yeah, I was like, first off, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But like a whole hour he would devote. Oh man,
Yeah,
such
yeah.
a good
Not
guy.
surprised.
But yeah. Oh God, I love Doc Goebel. But so yeah, Dr. Goebel, I snuck in a few lessons. I studied with I took a few lessons with Beals. And wow, man, like I ain't gonna lie, Andrew Beals opened me up when it came to harmony. Because I remember one of the first lessons I sat down, and and me, I'm pretty straightforward. I'll tell you, and I try to be straightforward, I guess, especially with my teachers. But I told him like, dude, I just don't get it, And this was like my junior year of WestCon, and he goes, well, I've seen you transcribe some stuff. I know you can play some stuff right out of line for me, with some chords over it, like just a regular 2-5-1. Okay, and he goes, now put the numbers over it, and it was like connecting the dots. So boom.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was there when. I think he probably was. Was Javier Oviedo teaching there when you were?
I don't think so. It
No?
was,
Okay.
it was mostly Doc. Beals had, I mean, in the era before Jimmy Green arrived, Beals was kind of like, you basically, like, from what I remember, saxophonists took like their freshman year lessons with Doc Goebel, because he was about like, okay, you're gonna learn how to play the saxophone.
Yes, the technique.
And then you graduated to Beals. So at my time there, it was like Beals was the guy you studied with before Jimmy showed up. Yeah. So, but cool. I would take lessons with Beals too. I would always knock on his door and ask him to explain stuff to me. He was always, I say this all the time, he was always critical, but there was a lot of honesty. He used to always go, oh, don't worry, the listeners won't be able to tell, but I'm making a playing the air trumpet kind of motion, and he'd always do that and go, yeah, once you figure this out, you'll be all right, you'll be fine. And he'd tear you apart, but he'd reassure you in some way. I'll tell you once, one of the crown achievements of my career was playing gigs with Andrew Beals, like being in the band, not sitting in, no jam session, nothing, being on the gig with Beals and getting praised by him. That was like, okay, check that off for music career bingo, because that means something. That means to me. Doc and Beals, but Doc especially. Before you go on, I just want to say about Doc, like,
no, please
talk about like a teacher who taught how to gain respect of your students. Like, you just respected Dan Goebel. And I remember when I was a junior, I hope this story is as funny as it was if you lived it, but when I was a junior, everybody had to take conducting, but there were too many kids for one section. So they decided to put all the classical majors in one section and then all the jazzers in with Doc Goebel. And if you can find somebody of this era to tell this story, I swear to God, they'll tell you the same exact way. But like, first off, Doc would lock the classroom door at 9 o'clock.
Oh.
The class started at 9. So if you weren't in the room before the time started, you were shit out of luck. He'd lock you out, and people would always be late knocking on the door. He would just ignore them. So everybody was there early, and anytime somebody was noodling, he would call you out. And I remember there's a couple of stories that kind of embarrass people, so I'll leave them out and I'll tell you off the air. But there was one story where they were, because it's jazz majors, there were a bunch of guitarists, they're all in the corner, and they were always getting in trouble for noodling while he was talking. And my buddy Alex Faulkner, great guitarist, we all hear it. We all hear somebody noodling, and Alex just throws up both of his hands in the air as like a sign, I'm not the one disrupting your class. And it was, you got to be there for these things, but it was fucking hilarious because Doc he just looked up and he was like, and whoever it was, he yelled at him in that very Dan Aykroyd-esque manner that he has. And it was just like, you just don't fuck with, like upsetting Doc Goebel was upsetting. Like, you wanted him to be proud of you, and you wanted him to be pleased with you in the way you carried yourself, because he made that so important I've talked about this ad nauseum. He taught us how to treat each other as colleagues, which I think is the most important aspect of being a musician. Because he used to say this all the time: look to your left, look to your right. Any one of these guys or gals might be your boss on the bandstand or in a music department. So conduct yourself properly here, because that's going to go out with you. And he was right. He was absolutely right. So I'm glad you got to experience some time with Doc Goebel, because that is that's a treasure right there. So go ahead, keep going.
No, God bless, man. Backtracking real quick. You were talking about the gigs with Beals. He actually, I don't talk about this. I don't like to be like, ooh, but he texted me the summer of going into my senior year of college. If I'm going to my junior year. Excuse me, but he got me on a wing gig in the Botanical Gardens, one of them down in the city, with him playing too. Wow. Two of us. It was Barry and alto. And he's like, just make sure you know these 4 tunes. It was a Meditation by Jobim, Body and Soul. Oh man, what were the other 2?
Wave.
No, because we had one Jobim tune down.
Okay.
And I will remember, because I only learned Wave like a year or 2 ago. I do remember when I learned the tunes. I try to, but I can't remember the other 2. But I learned them, and I went. And then after that, I was just reading, the pop charts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Beals, I got a few, because, I learned it. I had to solo a few parts. I remember.
Sure.
The one thing I like to do, I don't know if you probably know this, I like to throw in some quotes when I solo. I try.
Quotes are the best, man.
Yeah, well, you do it too. What am I saying?
Oh, sure.
In rhythm. But
I stole that. I got that from Eddie Henderson, actually. You know what's funny is I didn't know that was Gershwin until embarrassingly too late. Because I learned that lick from Eddie Henderson, who stole that lick from John Coltrane. And I can't remember. I think he plays it on Relaxin'.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. It was for like a while, like embarrassingly way too long. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, that Eddie lick is in this Gershwin tune.
Yeah. I mean, hey, don't feel bad, because
I know. I say with a grain of salt, but still, I was like, hey, that Eddie lick is in this Gershwin tune. Did you ever notice that?
Yeah. But so I remember over Meditation, I figured out, I'm like, I could play the melody of Just Friends over this, because it works. So I did that, and I remember Beals going, you know how Beals, with his, not obnoxious, but just like, very exaggerated, I love it. But and then at the end of the night, I remember packing up, and I'm like, hey man, thank you so much. And he just looked at me, and he had that fatherly smile. He goes, you did great, and it felt good. So yes, man. And backtracking really quick. I just want to go back to my high school years. I want to say, listening. I just want to say these 2 people, because they're very important. I just remember this halfway through, of course, while we're in college. But Mr. Stephen Gibaldi, my AP US history teacher, and Mr. Stamboni, I didn't have him as a teacher, art teacher, but both avid music lovers, not just of jazz, but they hooked me up with some really great listening in my formative years. Just like they hit me to some Pepper Adams stuff, Bud Powell, all that stuff, which I guess we'll talk about when we get into influences. But I just wanted to give them a shout out. They're 2 great guys. And it's great. I actually saw Mr. Gibaldi. He takes walks in the neighborhood. He stopped by, and we were talking about music. So it was really cool.
Yeah. He probably calls you the music man or something like that, right? Like, yeah, like we all like you're making me think of like some friends of my parents, and like one of them would always call me Louis, because his only reference was Louis Armstrong. Like, yeah, Nick plays the trumpet, but it's out of respect. You know what I mean? It's but that's awesome.
I've got maybe jazz man. Yeah, I got jazz man, but no, it is great. God bless. They're great guys. I got
jazz man.
I will say with Mr. Gibaldi though, he knows his shit, man. He might know some more stuff than you might, and you know a lot more than when it comes to just like the records and stuff than me. But Gibaldi knows a good deal, and he doesn't play, but so just shout out the 2 of them. Actually, Mr. Gibaldi's on Instagram, and he's really, you should follow him. He's got a lot of very good, just like kind of cultural stuff. Mr. G241, if I'm not mistaken. Give him a follow. He's a great guy. But
were you ever at 3 Sheets when Mark Kaplan showed up? Do you know who he is?
Yes, I was. Dude, wasn't the very last 3 Sheets he came?
It was. It was the last. It was the last jam session before lockdown. My He was my guidance counselor in elementary school. And I always remembered that he was like in a cover band or something like that. But turns out he's a cat, man. And his daughter was hanging out that night, and she knows me because I've known Mark and his family for a while. And she said, "Oh, my dad, should be here, and he would love it." And I said, "Get him on the phone and tell him to come down." And sure enough, and like Mark knows how to play, man. And exactly what happened is what I knew would happen. Is like I threw him up on the stage, and he's older, he's in his he's probably almost 70, and the jam is mostly young guys, and I'm like, I said to the host band, he's gonna sit in on the next tune. And they're like, "Oh, okay." Everyone had this like, "Oh, Nick's like uncle is gonna play," right? And then sure enough, he did exactly what I knew he'd do. He blew the motherfucking brains out of everyone listening with this Coltrane shit, right? And I was just like, there he is.
Hey, you called it, man. I mean, I'd seen him on Facebook. He had played at the ninth note a bunch. I never caught him at the ninth note, but I knew of the name.
Yeah.
And I knew Austin Izu played with him a bunch in some salsa bands too. And he was like, "This guy's really good." I heard a recording of him actually. I was like, "Yeah, it sounds really good." And it was just really nice to hear him.
I want to get him on the show. I feel like I'm trying to I don't know if you listened to the episode. I had Brian Charette on the show the other day, and I'm trying to get all the cats that have Connecticut roots. So like of Brian's generation, I'm trying to get Mike DeRubo and Ben Allison and all these guys.
Oh, that'd be cool, man. Mike DeRubo,
but also I want to get like these I say this with respect, but like these old timers that stuck around, that are we haven't seen. Mark is someone I definitely want to get on the show and just let the dam break,
let it flow,
let the levee break, and let it flow, and hear all these great anecdotes. I'm sure he has, But let me ask. So you only went to WestCon, right? You didn't join the exodus to another school because there was.
I almost did.
Yeah, but you stuck it out. Huh?
I stuck it out. I almost wound up transferring to SUNY Purchase going into my junior year. And then I was just like, I got a lot of friends at WestCon. I made some really good friends. And I was just like, I kind of had this thing, and I think people realize this once if they do transfer, you're just going to go through the same shit that you're going through no matter what. It's all the same environment.
It happens at every jazz school. It's not, it's not just, it's not just WestCon. For sure.
Yeah. So, but really quick, just to wrap it up, I guess one of my other teachers, Mr. Dave Nolan. I don't think he was there when you were there. No, definitely not. But he is he was. I hate to say it. He's a Broadway musician, who is just a phenomenal woodwind player. Like the guy can play a great solo over "I Love You" and then pick up the piccolo and play the craziest shit. He was very kind. He let me sit in a few of the shows, and he was subbing in Aladdin.
Wow.
And this was my spring break of junior year, and I'm just sitting next to him, and this guy is, it's just the wildest shit, man. He's ripping on the low register of the clarinet, like this Arabian like part, and it just stands out. And I looked at him, and he just looked bored. And I don't know if I ever told you, he was my teacher my last full year, because I wanted to do some doubling stuff.
I want to talk about that.
My fall semester, believe it or not, we mainly played clarinet. Like I didn't actually have saxophone lessons. So Thank you, Dave Nolan. Really taught me a lot. And then, also what I've tried to do since getting out of college, and even in college, I tried to take lessons with other people. It's no, I should not say that, but people who are in the scene playing. I was, back then, obviously. So I want to just give a shout out to some of the teachers and players who I'd take lessons from and just inspire me. Tony Lustig, I don't know if you've ever heard him. He's, plays with the Birdland Big Band, a phenomenal bari player. I took some lessons with Gary Schmolian,
sure,
which was
of
great.
Course.
Now I'm drawing a blank, of course. Now this happened after I got out of college. I started studying with him, but Frank Vaselli.
I know of Frank's playing. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I forget how I discovered him. I think early on he was playing with a guy that was maybe like a year or two older than me. So like I don't think Frank's much older than me, or like I believe it was like Tatum Greenblatt or
I see that. Okay.
Or another trumpet player of
not
that
Fabian
age.
Mary.
I'm sorry?
Fabian Marie, the French trumpet player.
Maybe. Basically, like, towards the end of my time in school, there was definitely someone, I think it was Tatum, to be honest with you, because he was dating a friend of mine at the time. And it was like, oh, here's a guy who's not much older than me, who's like starting to establish himself. So it was like, how you kind of like gravitate towards that. So
Yeah.
he was playing with Frank, and then that's how I like found out about Frank, and
Yeah.
great. And he's played with Magnarelli and stuff. So like as the years have gone on, like I've definitely heard him play with Joe a lot.
Yeah, Joe Richie Vitale, the trumpet player.
Yep.
Frank's honestly, I have to say, I think once we'll talk about influences. I guess when it comes to modern players, I gravitate towards Frank the most. Yeah, I love Frank. He's such a good guy, man. Taking lessons with him. I only took a couple so far. Obviously we were supposed to take a lesson and then COVID happened. He's like, yeah, you're not coming. I'm like, yeah, I get it. We took an online lesson though, which was cool.
Yeah.
But I love Frank, man. Such a good dude. So that, and then another guy, just real quick, Alejandro Aviles, who's jazz saxophonist, flautist, amazing flute player who's kicked my ass and really gotten my flute chops going. Dave Nolan did help me with the basics, but Alejandro, I would go to him every few months and really kicking my ass. But such a nice guy, really killing player. Holy crap, man! Like on alto, but flute too. Like I'm glad I put myself out there in the past, like, because, I'd show up at these guys' New York's apartments and they'd be very nice and welcoming, come on in. And I'd sometimes eat shit, and really, really good people. So I'm glad. And so that was WestCon, man. I mean, I learned, I met you at the ninth, I think my sophomore year. Yep, that's, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of when I met you, but it must have been that.
Yeah, it was that, because I remember I was there. I went because Josh Bruno and Nick Biello were hosting the session at the ninth. It was me and Austin. We're sitting there scared shitless because Bruno and Biello are going, I was just ripping through High House. And then towards the end, I distinctly remember you popping up and, you introduced yourself. You're really cool. And one of the things that you said that have always stuck out, you're like, you want to learn language, man, transcribe just half of a Kenny Dorham record and you'll thank me later. I don't know if you remember that.
Wow, how insightful of me.
Hey, man. And I was like, oh, Kenny Dorham. Who's Kenny Dorham? Because I'm still,
Yeah.
I remember you guys. I didn't know the tune back then, but you guys played Recordame. And I was like, yeah, man. You, Bruno, and the trombone player from Heart.
Yeah.
It probably
Davis.
was. Yeah. Most likely it was. I have this weird thing. I can remember certain little things, and then I don't remember my mom's birthday. I do actually now, though, thinking of it. But you know what I'm saying? I have this weird little thing where I can remember little things.
Sure. Well, things stand out to you,
Yeah. So, man. God, WestCon. People who listen, I'll say some things. I have my stories. I have my things. But you know what? I'm glad I went there. Yeah, we all. Sure, sure. I'm glad I went there. I learned so much. Dr. Jimmy Green taught me the transcription process and articulation and the real jazz thing. Doc, if anything, Doc taught me, technique, but Doc taught me humility and being a person. And as you know, we've said, Dave taught me the woodwinds and thinking. Another thing that Dave Nolan said that stood out was, it's all music, So that he taught me the doubling, just being a musician. And Beals taught me the harmony, like thinking, just with your head, the system, and it doesn't have to, just because you're thinking like numbers and stuff doesn't mean that there ain't feeling in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm happy I went, man. Yeah, and that's WestCon,
Yeah. Well, all right. So let's switch gears a little bit. So, give me your rating. I'm gonna say some Barry players, and and then you come back to me with your rating. So we got Pepper Adams, Cecil Payne. Who am I missing already? I'm blanking, and I
got a list right here.
Jerry Mulligan. Where are these guys landing on for you? For me, it's Pepper Adams. Like if somebody said Barry player, Pepper Adams, most of my Pepper Adams listening is from like the records he did with Donald Byrd.
Happy birthday, Donald Byrd, by the way.
Oh,
it's his birthday today.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's funny because before this, I saw Frank posted on Instagram. Sorry, I didn't mean to come.
No, that's okay.
I almost forgot this. I saw his story I clicked on a story. Happy birthday, Donald Byrd. So I just want to say that. Sorry.
Oh, very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
Pat Patrick is another one.
Pat Patrick.
Yeah, do you know who
Pat
that is?
Patrick. I've never heard that name
Okay,
before. Actually,
Sun
believe it or
Ra.
not.
Okay, so he was in the Sun Ra
Oh,
Orchestra.
he did that. He did that. Like that big like album thing with like I think 18 Berry players or something like that. Or am I thinking of a
Yeah,
different guy?
I think that's accurate. He mostly is famous for playing in the Sun Ra Orchestra. His son is Deval Patrick, who was the governor of Massachusetts.
Okay. Okay.
um,
So now, yeah, I'm remembering. Yes, I
I've
have
always
listened
wanted
to him.
Duvall to
Yeah.
I always wanted to find an interview of Duvall talking about his dad, because it's like, what was it like going into politics and your father's this avant-garde jazz musician, you know?
Well,
But
I think he probably had a very what's the word? Oh man, just very futuristic outlook, probably.
sure, sure. So again, so throwing Pat's name out and kind of throwing you a curveball, it goes to show, like, just real, like, we don't have to harp on it. Sun Ra, man, jazz music.
Yeah.
You know who doesn't appreciate Sun Ra? Jazz musicians. You know who appreciates Sun Ra? Everybody else.
Yeah.
It's weird. And I'm just as guilty. I have almost all of his albums, and I have not really spent any time with them, just a few of them. But he's someone that needs to be studied in the jazz pedagogy. But also
Yeah. Yeah.
Roscoe Mitchell of the Art
Yes.
Ensemble of Chicago. So anyway, one of my favorite records with Barry players is Dakar, right, with Coltrane, because
Ooh.
you got Cecil Payne, and you've got Pepper, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely different sounds, on the same instrument. But first off, that record sounds like a freight train when it goes by. But what? So give me. So who influences you of the classic era like that? Like, give me the rating. You know.
Yeah. Well, what's like 1 to 10
No, just
or
like,
one
who's
to
your
five?
favorite?
Oh, so top. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I just want to make sure before I just go
No
sprouting.
problem. Don't worry.
Sprouting.
None of this is gonna be held up in court. Like, don't worry. Like, this is
Yeah.
all casual.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right. I gotta say, first and foremost, it's always going to now, at least for where I am, and probably until the day I die, it's going to be Pepper Adams because
Yeah.
man, from what that guy just did, how he played, everything, you can't beat that. You can't. I don't know. It's just oof, So it's Pepper Adams definitely. Um, Cecil falls right under there.
Yeah.
Why? Part of it is because Pepper Adams' favorite baritone player was Cecil Payne,
Ah,
Cecil
there it
Payne.
is. Right. Right.
So there's that. And then after that, I would. After those two, I got to say Leo Parker, not Leo P, not the dancing guy.
Oh
Leo
yeah, Leo
Parker.
Parker. Yeah, yeah. He had
Yeah.
a Blue Note
Now
record, right? He
he
had like
had
one.
several.
Oh, he had
He had a
several.
he had now of course there was Let Me Tell You About It was Blue Note.
Okay.
No, Blowing with Leo. I can't remember the name of it
Blowing
off the
with
top of my head.
Leo is like, I think, like Hank Mobley's on that one, right? Or I know for a fact it's a Blue Note album, and then there's
Yeah.
one that has Hank Mobley on it.
There is. I have to check that out because I don't remember the two of them playing together. That's interesting. Okay. But definitely Let Me Tell You About It was a Blue Note record. Like you said,
Yeah.
Blowing with Leo. And there's one other. I think there's one other. I just can't recall off the top of my head. I should, but Leo Parker, why? Because man, just a fat sound and just that feel, man. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but that and then who am I thinking, from that era? Sonny Stitt. Have you ever heard Sonny Stitt play Barry sax?
No, all I got is the Sunny Sit story with. Have I told you this story? Peter Bernstein told me this story where Sonny Rollins was playing a gig with Jackie McLean. Ever tell
Yes,
you
he
this?
walked
Okay,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So Peter Bernstein told me this story. I don't know where it originated. I don't know who told him, but I guess Sonny Rollins and Jackie McLean were playing a gig together, and Sonny Stitt showed up with a tenor in one hand and an alto in the other hand, and
Yep,
he
yep, yep.
said to them, like, I've been waiting a long time to get you two motherfuckers in the same room or something like that. Just
Yeah,
fucking headhunting, man. Like this fucking tribal shit. I love it. Stories like
that
that
was
is like why I play the music.
it's beautiful, man. I love that story. I
Yeah.
haven't heard that one actually. Not second, Sonny Stitt, man. But him on Barry, man. There's a collection. It's actually mainly just one record. Actually, no, two. I lied. There's Kaleidoscope where he plays on two
Yep.
tunes: "P.S.
Yep.
I Love You" and "This Can't Be Love." And then the other collection, to my knowledge, is "Live at the Hi Hat," both volumes. Um, And yeah, Sonny Stitt was a phenomenal Barry player that no one
Wow.
really knew about. And I have to say, like, that was, I transcribed a few of those in college. So it's those guys, always goes back though. Pepper Adams, just for the sound and the
Yeah.
feel. And then I'm just trying to think, now he's a little bit more modern. He's still alive today, but I gotta say, Ronnie Cuber too, man. I love
Oh,
me some
how could
Ronnie
we
Cuber.
forget about Cuber, dude? I
You
always
can't
bring him
forget,
up
man.
with you. I can't believe I
Yeah.
fucking forgot.
It's all
My
good.
father-in-law loves Ronnie Cuber. Every time he comes over the house, he pulls this one Ronnie Cuber album. It's on Xanadu. Shit, I gotta look it up. But he always pulls that one off the shelf and puts that one on, and puts on the first track he plays is Tintindeo, and I'm just like, yeah, man, like okay with me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cuber, man.
Ronnie, phenomenal player. What was I gonna say? Let me ask you something. As you're a Barry player, right? And in the doubling aside, are you are Barry players jealous of tenor saxophonists? Because as an observer, as a brass player, and someone just like an observation, tenor is in everything, right? I mean, especially in rock music and R&B and stuff. I feel like the tenor of all horns, the tenor is like portrayed as the coolest. Do you have like is there a Barry is there any kind of like jealousy to that? Or am I just full of shit? But I just like as a trumpet player, there will always be a saxophone player in the band. There's never just a trumpet player unless it's like right. But once you have the saxophonist, then you can add the brass. That's usually how it is, and so there is like a little jealousy on my part for that. So like, what's your take on the tenor? Are you like fuck that? Is it like Anchorman where they all fucking fight?
I love that scene, man. I got nothing against the tenor, really. I mean, I've heard no. I mean, for me personally, maybe this exists otherwise. But for me, I mean, no, I got nothing against a good tenor player. I love me some Sonny Rollins, some Sonny Stitt on tenor. I love me some Joe Fromm. Yeah, I got nothing against it. Honestly, if anything, I wish I took tenor a little bit more seriously. But that's a commitment.
Sure.
I keep telling myself, I'm like, man, I want to transcribe a Jimmy Heath solo. I want to transcribe a Sonny Rollins solo. And I don't get around to it. But I really do wish that I could take, and I mean, with COVID, hey, maybe I should be taking
Well,
more
yeah, now
advantage
you're
of the time.
motivated to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I have, believe it or not, I've had a few gigs called where over COVID where I was playing tenor and I enjoyed it. And yeah, I got no qualms against it. I mean,
don't worry. I'm not going to let the tenor players know how, if you feel
man,
about
if they come for me, man, I'll play a low B flat,
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I appreciate the baritone saxophone. My earliest experience with it is the band Less Than Jake. They've always been like two trombones and a Barry player. And I was like, man, the baritone saxophone's fucking cool. It's so fucking deep and shit, Really quick to double back, that record with Ronnie Cuber is called Cuber Libre.
That's it.
It's from 1978 on Xanadu Records. I was definitely right about that. Star Eyes, Riptide, Tintindeo, Samba de Orfeo, Misty, Southwest Funk, and Prince Albert. And the band is Ronnie with Sam Jones, Barry Harris, and Tootie Heath. And
man, talk about lineup, huh?
I know, what a fucking great record, man. So good, good tunes. Yeah, my father-in-law always play like that's what he grabs for. I keep it in the exact same spot on the shelf just so he knows he can grab that one first.
Good taste. Good taste.
What about let me ask you something. So like you ever check out like Colin Stetson? Do you know who that guy is?
No, I can't say I have.
So he's a Barry player. He's like a bass saxophonist as well, but he does a lot of like solo work where he uses circular breathing and shit. And he creates this like atmospheric music that he's been around for a while. Dude.
He's a bald fellow, right?
Yes.
Is he bald? Yeah. Okay, I actually know who you're talking about because believe it or not, my friend Pat from WestCon, my WestCon days, he sent me his Adult Swim concert where he was playing, I believe, the bass sax. Well, that was the last one, but he was playing like the contra alto clarinet. Actually, I was just hip to him very recently.
Okay.
I thought, I mean, man, that stuff is very cool. I just don't see myself doing that anytime soon right now for where I'm at. I would like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
learn kind of, but I appreciate that stuff.
yeah.
Jamie Berlin, I was hanging out with him a week or
Uh-huh.
two ago after one of the uh,
The
Yale
downtown
gigs.
gigs. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. Looking forward to this Saturday. What was I saying? He showed me this guy. I can't remember the name. Maybe it might have been Colin actually, but he was playing like a sewer and just like it was like a drain actually. I shouldn't say sewer. It wasn't nasty, but it was like he had. Oh man, the thought because I was just listening to it like the way with the echoes and the harmony how he built it blew my mind, you know. And
Sure, sure.
yeah, you know.
I haven't listened to Colin in a long time, but I do remember. I'm pretty sure about this that maybe he had a record come out the same time the VJ Iyer trio had a record come out. I just remember one of the very earliest winter jazz fests, like when it first started. I'm talking like 2002, 3, 4 maybe. I caught Colin like right around the time I caught VJ Iyer was playing. Also, Ambrose Akamusir was like, I left VJ Iyer's set to go check out Ambrose. I remember that, and I was like the only person in the audience for Ambrose's set. It was crazy.
Oh damn.
But yeah, so here's I'm into a lot of experimental music. I feel like my experimental bag of tricks is not, I'm still working on it. It's slower because it requires obviously hours of commitment. But 99% of my playing is straight ahead. So, and then there's like my electric stuff. So, I want to do solo pieces and more experimental stuff. I've been writing a lot for like different groups and stuff, and I always like trying to turn on colleagues of mine to musicians on their instrument that don't that they may not have heard of, or they're not playing straight edge jazz or something. So like Colin Stenson one. You ever check out Moon Hooch? You know that band?
Yes, yeah. I
My
went through that in
sister-in-law
college.
went to college with those guys.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow,
they
that
used to
must.
put on shows like in the dorm or something like that. They're super cool. They're always playing like Barry saxes and double bass
Yeah,
clarinets and that sort of thing. And
yeah. Bass saxes.
yeah. What about like
Yeah,
Jimmy
no, they're great.
Guthrie? You ever check out Jimmy Guthrie?
I have listened to a few of his things. You know, you ever watch the film Newport 58 or 59? I can't remember. It's a collection of the Newport Jazz Festival from either 1958 or 1959.
Yeah.
And it's beautifully done, except I recently found out through Mr. Gibaldi, shout out to him again, that they cut a huge amount of stuff that should have been on there. But anyway,
Oh, sure. No doubt.
that was the opening act. Jimmy said, I'm horrible with pronunciation. Say it again.
Guthrie.
His last name.
Jimmy
Guthrie. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Jimmy Guthrie was that was the most recent time I've listened to him. Jimmy Guthrie opened it, and I checked out some of his stuff, and it's cool. There's that
real
one
versatile
song.
player.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. There's that record with Bob Brookmeyer, and this was on the Newport film where it's like it just sounds like For me, I like to kind of visualize songs sometimes. Music when I'm listening to this, it just sounds like you're on a raft in the Mississippi. I can't recall the melody. I can't remember any right off the top of my head, but it's on one of his records with Bob Brookmeyer. So it's just very cool. It's it is cool jazz, right? It falls in that category.
Yeah, it's like legit West Coast cool jazz. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, but I dig that texture, man. I one thing I really actually low key. I don't say this to a lot of people, but I kind of like folk music. Trying to find folk music and how can we blend that with jazz, and I'm trying to work on that. I'm nowhere near it, but I'm trying. So.
Yeah. Well, I talked to Brian about the fact that he's a proponent of it's just music. Stop putting labels and stuff on things.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do that if you want to do a folk song in your jazz quartet recording or something, like do it. Like there's nothing that should stop you. And
I plan to once I kind of try to make something that's legit, goes back. It's music.
You've got something legit. This is a great segue. You've got something legit coming out. Talk about what's the name of this new record that's coming out?
Yeah, so this record is entitled "The Spring We Never Had," and I think that's pretty. I wonder where I got the inspiration for the name. And yeah, man, that was a lot of fun to do. I'm very looking forward to putting it out there. It's coming out in the next week or two. It's going through the CD baby process. Just review.
Very familiar with that.
Yeah, But yeah. So I got to say, I had a lot of fun doing this. And I guess I'll just talk about maybe the origins and what's going on. I guess.
Yeah.
But
Talk about it, man.
my friend Alex Nze, who I went to school with, graduated with, he was an audio major.
Yeah.
And so he man, my man Alex, he was doing a lot of good stuff before COVID hit. He was working at Daryl's house in Pauling, the Daryl's
Yeah.
house.
Wow.
And he had left that job, and he was working at Dizzy's every other night, basically,
wow.
or sometimes nights in a row, doing the sound at Dizzy's. So,
Wow.
bro, Dizzy's Coca-Cola Club.
Right. What a great way to hear good music regularly.
I have so much respect for Alex as an audio engineer, as a musician, of course, too. But as man,
he plays guitar, right? He plays guitar. I feel like he's
a saxophone player.
Saxophones? Who am I? Oh, I think I'm mixing him up with I know a different cat. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I met. I don't think I met this guy then.
You'll run into him, I'm sure. But he messaged me, I think in June, I want to say. I would have to check my messages. But he's like, hey, dude, I have a bunch of free time. I got some equipment. I want to do something. And I was like, I had, and this is me. I have some tunes I had been writing, working on, trying to brush up a little bit. I'm like, word. So what happened was I had recently actually reached out to Eric Hallenbeck, who was recently on this, I know.
Yeah.
The dude.
Yeah.
And him and Marius Vandenbrink, I hope I'm saying that right. Love you, Marius. You're the man. I reached out to them to make these backing tracks for me because I had a solo gig and I wanted some I didn't want to play to like a Learn Jazz Standards thing on YouTube or even a neighbor's hall. I wanted,
Yeah.
So then I'm talking to Eric about just some of the things, I was like, hey, would you, Marius, and Reed Miller, because he lives with them, would you guys be down to, make a record with some of my tunes? And right off the bat, Eric was like, hell yeah, man. He talked to Reed and Marius right off the bat. And another thing, though, I don't know if you could tell this because I know I sent you 2 tunes. That recording was done in their basement in Brooklyn.
Wow. That's awesome.
I mean, it's not the best sounding thing in the world. It's not like, we recorded at Firehouse 12, but, Alex met me at my house the end of August, and we drove down to their spot in Flatbush. And I helped him crate it in. He added some stuff,
sure.
My
first record was recorded at Creative Music, and I had to help schlep the equipment in.
Oh, that's great.
So I get you. I understand.
Yeah.
I know the
hustle. Yeah, we did. We knocked it out in one day. We had me and the guys, the trio. We had a rehearsal during the week earlier. Yeah. But we went in, we knocked out a whole bunch of takes, and that was that. We got back, me and Alex loaded up the car, and boom. So there's that, we did it in the basement. And part of it, my message for this, it's not like, hey, I'm still in the game or anything like that. My message is the technology is so good that where you're sitting, you can make probably a good quality sounding record.
Yeah.
Right?
I've laid down a couple of tracks just in my office and like everybody else, I bought my microphone and my interface, so I could record over the summer, just like everybody, and you're absolutely right. I'm happy for you, man. You said you sent me 2 tunes. The first one you sent me, it's called Age of Disillusion. I said that right?
Age of Disillusion. Okay. Yeah, you got it. No, you good.
It reminded me of something on Larry Young's Into Something, or is it Grant Green? They're both on the record, but it's Larry Young, Sam Rivers, I think Elvin's on it, and Grant Green. It's called Into Something. Kind of give me that vibe, like okay. But I love the intro to it. It had like a more open thing. I feel like, man, we've only played, I think, 1 gig together. We've always interacted on the jam session stage, which is crazy. So the majority of your playing I've heard has mostly been like bebop or hard bop or something. So this first track was really enjoyable because I felt like I heard a side of Anthony Pellegrini I've not heard before. So that was really cool, man. That tune really stuck out in that way. It was a little bit more polished and opened up, if you will. Great selection of and you said these were all originals, right?
Yes, all 6 tunes. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Good for you.
2 of them I'm looking actually. One of them I've recorded in the past. I guess I'll give a little brief thing, but No, thank you for that. Age of Disillusion. You want to know something? Age of Disillusion was an assignment for my jazz theory class in Westcon my last year. It is a reharmonization of the changes of the melody of I Didn't Know What Time It Was. So little tweaks here and there.
Okay,
But
okay.
I don't know if you caught it. I actually quoted that my last solo break. Excuse me, trading with Eric and the guys in there. I don't know. It's a quick little thing, you know?
I did miss it. I'll have to. You know, I was listening
Yeah,
to it right after I got out of working out, so I'll have to go
it's
in
all.
and
Hey,
focus, laser focus, and check it out again.
well, you know, the fact that you're saying these things, you're hearing a different side. I mean, that's good to hear, man. Because I was just trying to. I just tried to play, but you know, if I'm getting that effects from someone like you know, I'm
No,
excited to
man,
put
it's
it all out.
yeah.
But yeah,
No, you should. You should
um,
totally be. You know, I always say it like so. I put out my first record when I was 25, and you know,
okay.
I've always done independent releases and all this. You know, blah blah blah. I wish that I uh like believed in myself a little bit more. I would have enjoyed when the records came out. Like instead I was like, oh, I all I thought about was what I could do better. You know, and I was thinking about the next record when I
Mm-hmm.
should have been enjoying the one I'm releasing. It took until my last two records where I started like enjoying the moment. You know, so
As you
seriously, you
should.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, and you know, so seriously, like you know, I was really I was pleased to hear this track. Awesome, that's Reharm, man. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
I got. Hey, I honestly, I don't want to sound like that, but that's my favorite tune I've written so far of
okay,
my
yeah.
own accord. But
It's funny you wrote it a while ago, but it has a very like topical title, Age of Disillusion. But you wrote it a few
that
years
was the
ago.
title even back then too. You
Yeah,
know.
right. Well, I got a tune I'm going to be recording in a couple of months called Dark Times. Fucking
Yeah.
wrote this thing in 2013, man. It has nothing to do with 2020, but you know how people are gonna take a title like that, you know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And you know, just to backtrack, I want to say for the record, I left that session feeling pretty shitty. I ain't gonna lie, because I was like, man, I'm rusty. You know, that was my first
Yeah.
time playing with a real rhythm section in a hot second, and then to be recorded. But then I listened back, and you know what? I was like, you know what? I'm kind of proud of it. Sounds to me, you know, I've shown a few people. You know, I've shown Austin. I've shown some of my friends. I've shown Mr. Gibaldi. Shout out again. But you know,
There you go.
I'm just very I'm excited to just put it out there, and
Yeah, man.
yeah, you know.
There's no
So
fucking competition. Like if
nah,
you know
come on.
putting out
Yeah.
artistic output is enough because most people are going to go through their lives never creating anything artistically or
Mm-hmm.
creatively. So you're already ahead of like the curve, and you know, and man, there's nothing like yeah. One day you're going to look back on that record and be like, wow, I've come a long way since. That's the
Yeah,
point,
yeah, yeah,
man. You know, like Sonny
yeah.
Rollins never like listening to himself. I also
Mm-hmm.
heard that Blue Mitchell had a disdain of listening to himself back. So, you know, it's all relative, man.
Subjective, yeah.
Yeah, because like Blue Mitchell, right? That's like Bruno's favorite trumpet player, and it's like, well,
Hell yeah.
imagine if Blue Mitchell knew that like this cat who sounds amazing, you know, is learning all his shit. He probably like wouldn't believe it unless he saw it, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Uh,
the other track you sent me was called Oh Hi Oh,
yeah,
but
well,
it's
it's like
so
so
it's
you got the yo,
Ohio like
it's
the state.
Ohio like the state, but you know, it's kind of for like Ohio, you know, it's another corny little thing.
Gotcha.
But
And this is like a
yeah.
boogaloo. This is like a Lee Morgan kind of tune.
Yeah, I was
Sort of.
trying to go for that the kind of Dixie, I guess Dixieland's kind of almost not, I don't know. You can hear I'm obviously playing soprano on that. I
Yeah,
play
yeah.
soprano on two of these tracks.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I love playing soprano actually, low key. You know, I might not be the best soprano player, but I like playing it.
It was
So
surprising, man. It had, you know, all of a sudden there was this like Sidney Bechet, you know, back to your Dixieland thing. There was like this Sidney Bechet vibe coming out of the tune with you know, you had like the shuffly boogaloo kind of vibe, and then you got the soprano saxophone. It was surprising. It was, you know, and fucking blues, man. Like,
yeah,
you know,
can't go wrong with the
yeah, man.
blues.
Yeah, you gotta put that stuff on the on the record. You know, like
Yeah,
it's all
I love
about.
that. Yeah.
I gotta,
Um,
I gotta. It reminded me of a tune. You know, because Eric's on it. I was thinking about back when Eric was in my band, we used to play a tune of mine called "Cheap Booze," and
I
that was
remember
like,
that. I played that
yeah,
actually
that was
once.
like, yeah, that was like a faster boogaloo. But it, you know,
Hmm.
hearing Eric play that style brought me back, man. So I appreciate
Uh,
that.
Oh, hey man. I mean, it's music is what you make of it, and if I'm getting these, then God bless you. I mean,
Right.
and I gotta say, all three of those guys, they brought their game. Great unit, obviously, as an organ trio. And another thing, before I keep going on, I'm really glad I did it with organ trio because I like the sound.
Oh yeah. I want to
Yeah.
do I want to do the unity band sometime. I want organ, drums,
Oh yeah.
and being a tenor player, man. That's like, you know, I can't fucking wait. If you like that sound, there's a bunch of Jimmy Smith records. Live
Yes.
at Small's Paradise, maybe. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna look into it, but it's like Donald Byrd, Hank Mobley, Lou Donaldson with Jimmy Smith's organ trio, like guitar, organ, and drums. And they're like live record, early Blue
Mhm.
Note, late mid 50s jam records. Oh, so fucking good. I'm gonna look it up right now and let you know.
Hell yeah. I'm just on the topic. We're going to go back to Beals. Have you ever seen that video on YouTube of him playing Round Midnight with brother Jack McDuff? Have
No,
I?
but so Beals had shared a bunch of stories about being in McDuff's band with us. I don't know if I should repeat any of them because one, I think some of them are mixed up. It's been so long. I'm sure I'm going to confuse the details, but
Mhm.
all I've ever known are these like insane gig stories that he had working with Jack McDuff.
Uh, I think I might know one of them at least. I've heard one, but
Yeah.
let's keep it PG, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's cool. I just wanted to say that was why I love that video. Beals got molded in it. It's great. But yeah, Oregon Trio is cool, man. I don't know if maybe you might know a few, but in terms of Barry Oregon Trio, there's not a whole heck of a lot. Off the top of my head, Jason Marshall, who's a contemporary Barry player, comes to mind. He's got a lot of organ stuff with Barry, and then Schmolian released one back in like 2012 or maybe even a little earlier with Ladon, Bernstein, and Kenny Washington.
Oh, nice, nice.
And oof, man, that's been like I've always listened. I remember that was one of the first albums I bought CDs. Well, I bought through Amazon, and I still have it
Wow.
downstairs.
Uh,
Love
the
that
Jim,
record.
the Jimmy Smith albums. There's two of them. It's called A Date with Jimmy Smith, Volume 1 and Volume 2.
All
Uh,
right.
and yeah, the band definitely. Let me see: Lou Donaldson, Donald Byrd, Hank Mobley, Eddie McFadden on guitar, and Art Blakey on
Ooh.
drums. And they play like one blues and two standards. Like on Volume 1, they play How High the Moon, and
Mm.
we're talking like 20-minute long tunes. Super cool.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right, man. Like there's again, it goes back to the fucking fact that tenor players are always in the band, right? People are gonna think I'm anti-tenor. I'm not. I'm just trying to be funny about it. But it's like, yeah, you don't see baritone saxophones in the organ setting. And you know what's funny, man? And before we forget, Lisa Simpson, is she the most famous baritone saxophone player?
I
Because
guess if we're
her,
talking, worldwide
yeah,
audience, yeah, yeah.
yeah, right.
But I won't argue it. I mean, if we're talking worldwide audience, it's Lisa Simpson. But sorry,
Yeah,
keep going.
I would say so. I remember being because if I remember correctly, her saxophone's drawn like an alto, it sounds as a Barry. And I even being like a fucking eighth grader, I was like, that's not the right saxophone. But I
You
digress.
know, maybe yeah, it actually is now. I feel like I've seen images though where it has the loop, the loop on top, or maybe other times I do think of it as
Maybe,
just a big alto. Sometimes they might switch around, but
yeah.
do you did you ever watch the Family Guy Simpsons crossover they did recently a few years back?
No,
Or
no, so Family Guy got its cult following when I was a freshman in college, and
hmm
kind of had its comeback after I had been in school for a while. I didn't really watch Family Guy too much because I'm a snooty Simpsons fan, and I'm like, bro, they're just stealing the comedic style of the Simpsons. Like all the reference shit,
yeah.
they're doing that, man. So I was very snooty about, and to be honest with you, at that time in college, the people who there were like two kinds of people on my floor. The people who took school seriously, and then the fuck ups who spent all day skipping class playing Halo and then watching Family Guy at night. So like I kind of veered away from that because I was like, no, I gotta practice, I gotta get my shit done because I want to like be a musician when I'm out of here,
Yeah. Hey,
Who
that's why I
knows?
stay away from video games in college. So,
Yeah, man. I always tell my wife, I'm like, aren't you glad you didn't marry a guy? Anytime, we've been in lockdown together, and bless her, I love of my life. We're doing really well, being in close quarters, during quarantine. But I'm a trumpet player and I have to practice. So she has the patience of a saint, and I love her for it. But sometimes it's like, I say to her, I'm like, what would you rather have? Like, me play video games all day or me play an instrument? So shout out to my wife,
yes.
who has the patience of a saint. Thank you so much for being by my side in this time. Is not
No,
throwing a
that's
horn
great,
out
man.
the window. Let's just say that. But yeah, I
That's
think
great to hear.
but she said something like, "Oh, I'd rather take the instrument over the video games." So,
Yeah, I think I met her twice, at your apartment when we were rehearsing for that Dixie jazz gig we
oh
did way back, and then
man,
the actual gig itself. But she was very, very sweet. Someone's ringing my door. Oh, it's probably Amazon. Actually, thinking about it now. Sorry.
no,
I
it's
don't know
okay.
if you could hear that through
Oh
the.
yeah, we could.
Okay. I don't know if you heard any like weird like noises like gibberish. I have a parrot in the room and he likes to talk sometimes. So
Oh,
just
that's
saying that.
awesome. Oh, that's super
Um,
cool.
yeah, man.
Anthony, before because we're approaching an hour and a half here.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, time
Whoa, we had
flies,
some
dude.
fun.
Let's talk Star Wars real quick. So you are
Oh,
a huge Boba Fett fan. How did that come about, man?
how did that come about, man? Well, I think I got into Star Wars first through my dad. We went to Blockbuster. You remember those? I'm sure you do. When we rented
Of
a
course I
New
do.
Hope. Yeah, I know. But we rented a New Hope, and I watched it, and I'm like, oh, wow.
Sure.
And then just seeing Boba, in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I was just like, everyone, obviously it's cool. Darth Vader's cool. I've always been a sap for the Empire. I hate to say it, but if I was in Star Wars, I would commit war crimes for the Empire. Um,
Wow.
I hate. That
Wow.
sounds horrible saying that out
Yeah,
loud,
yeah,
but
man.
um,
Okay.
maybe in Star Wars, I mean, well, all right. How about this? I mean, I would have executed Order 66 just on like the older, the 25 and plus. How's that? Is that a little more?
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry. That's for can we cut that out? I'm just kidding. Leave that in. It's
No,
it's
you got to
raw, man.
own
We
it,
gotta
man.
keep it raw.
I'm not
No, I
editing
own
this
it.
shit.
No, it's okay. Hey, I mean, that sounds horrible, but what can I say? Anyway, but it was always Boba Fett who just was like, that guy's a badass. I have all downstairs. I still have it all, like the old books before Disney.
Yeah.
You know, we
Yeah.
changed everything. And I would always just study the pictures of Boba Fett with the, these are, and really quick, just we're going to get into it, but I like it how in this past episode they used his
The
knee
Mandalorian.
launchers. The
Yeah.
Mandalorian, excuse me. Yes, the Mandalorian. He used his knee rocket launchers because in the books you'll see they pointed that out, and you never saw him use that till
Yeah.
now. So God bless John Favreau.
Favreau. Yeah.
Favreau. God bless him, and God bless Dave Filoni. God bless Robert Rodriguez of
Yeah.
all people, the guy
Yeah.
who made Spy Kids and
Yeah.
other movies too. But backtracking. So I just love Boba Fett, man. And I was growing up, Attack of the Clones came out, and then seeing Django and Tamira Morrison in his first portrayal of Boba Fett. Excuse me, sorry, of
Jango
a
Fett. Yeah.
of a Fett.
Yeah.
Was just like so cool, man. And yeah, it's that. And man, it's just this past Friday going in. I was just like, well, we saw Ahsoka Tano. That's cool, man. I was growing up. I was in high school when the Clone Wars really started getting popular with Ahsoka. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But just seeing this episode, I was just like, wow, that was just cool, man. I there's no words. The fact, it's just great they got Tamira Morrison to come back.
Oh yeah. Yeah. See,
I'm so happy.
it's interesting, man. I was lukewarm for Boba Fett. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, he was cool. It was cool in Empire. He was pretty menacing. In Jedi, man, the way he
Yeah.
died, I always thought was stupid. I was like, and he was such a throwaway character for me. And over the years, I've met people who have read like the Mandalorian, Star Wars books, and
Right.
they would be the ones who would be like, no, man, he's cool. And I'm like, well, show me. So the concept of the Mandalorians are awesome, and obviously I love the show. But for me,
Hmm.
Boba Fett was like, okay. I always thought Attack of the Clones was the worst of the Star Wars movies. So Jango Fett was like, all right, it's fine. I've got no problem with him. I think the Mandalorian that we're getting right now is pretty fucking dope.
Yeah.
I do like the return of Boba Fett. I think that is cool. But I've said to you and Ryan Hom all the time, I'm a huge fan of Heir to the Empire.
Hmm.
Post Jedi Luke is like, that's my bread and butter, man. That's what I want to see. People seem to love the old Republic era. No, man, I love the New Republic era. I love when, like, because in the books, it took the New Republic like 20 years to oust the Empire after
Yeah.
Endor. In the movies,
Right.
it's like Endor, boom, done. No, there was the Imperial remnant, and it took them
Hmm.
until and now I'm reading the Legacy of the Force books. You've got uh, 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 the Imperials are within the Galactic Alliance now because after the
Hmm.
Yuzan Vong War. But that's all like book stuff that
That's
doesn't count anymore.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of so. One thing I always loved is I love that like the new canon has adopted Thrawn because Thrawn's always been like a fucking badass. So I'm
Oh yeah.
excited about that. I the Ahsoka stuff was cool. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. I will
Hmm.
always love seeing a Jedi. I love the parallels to samurai films that they were doing. Loved it. I had no emotional investment in her because I never watched the Clone Wars TV show because it was like for kids, and I was like 28 when it came out. So it's like, I'm
You know.
appreciating it. I'm glad that they're bringing in. They seem to be mixing. It's like, okay, because of the crybabies, they hate the new canon, so we have to. So it seems like what they're doing now is they're incorporating the old stuff with the new stuff. Making this melting pot of canon now. I appreciate it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I have to say, first and foremost, growing up, I actually I like the Attack of the Clones. Now I will say I like the last 45 minutes of Attack of the Clones. Once the Jedi, or everyone shows up in the arena, that's when the
Right.
action starts.
Right.
But I was thinking about it.
Some of the worst dialogue in the entire saga is in that movie.
But you know what? Something I thought about recently, been thinking about, I guess, especially since this episode, is that for what it's worth, George Lucas, his what he was trying to get at, the fact that Boba Fett, just this little detail, Boba Fett is a clone of the guy who's millions of clones are part of wiping out the Jedi. That's
Right.
was that George Lucas's idea, or was that someone at a pitch meeting talking with him? But I have to hand it, like, the overall story, when you read it, I guess when you read, like, I guess the events surrounding it, how it's connected, it's cool. But then you watch it and it's like, Misa name is Jar Jar Binks. You're like,
Right.
oh
But
God,
here's
I
the
hate
thing.
sand.
Here's the thing. I will only give George Lucas so much credit. Like, I give him all the credit he deserves for creating the characters in the universe. But
Hmm.
what made the movies into a saga for me was Irving Kershner, Lawrence Kasdan writing Empire Strikes Back, writing Return of the Jedi. That's what made it more than just a one-off kids movie. But then when you go from
Hmm.
there, Timothy Zahn, man, he wrote
Yeah.
the Heir to the Empire trilogy. So much, like, none of it could have happened without Timothy Zahn's input, which
Yeah.
which is incredible. You know, it's funny how these things come in waves because when the Heir to the Empire came out, it was in the early 90s. You had like a lull after Star Wars because
Hmm.
and Heir to the Empire got kids like me into Star Wars because I was born at the year Return came out. So like,
Hmm.
it was a bridge for me. And then, you know, episode 1 came out when I was a freshman in high school, but the other two came. Attack of the Clones came out when I was like a junior, I would say, and then episode 3 was I was in college when episode 3 came out. So
Oh man, what a
it,
time.
yeah, right, and now you have the Mandalorian. This is like 15, 20 years later. These movies are
Yeah.
coming out. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm just happy to be watching Star Wars, but
Oh yeah.
as my favorite meme on the internet, Star Wars fan meets mortal enemy, other Star Wars fan. So
There's that there was that meme I found. It's that one, it's from Spider-Man 3, I think. I don't know. It's when James Franco's like giving the dirty look to Tobey Maguire.
yeah.
Have you seen? And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
people
It's like
enjoying
Star Wars
Star
fan.
Wars. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah.
I mean, hey, man. I mean, just I'm just glad to. It was just so cool, man. This episode, especially, honestly, this was more exciting than seeing Vader go, ape shit the last 5 minutes of Rogue One. Because that was
See,
cool.
I have to disagree. See, I like the Vader stuff at the end of the Rogue One. I'm not saying Mandalorian is bad. It's like I love it. I love
Yeah.
it so much. But what's annoying me this past week is people are saying that the last 2 episodes of Mandalorian are better than like the last 6 movies or whatever, and it's like,
Yeah,
I'm
I'll agree
sorry.
with you there.
I hate to be this guy, but what has been really what have you liked about Mandalorian? Oh, it's fan service. They're adding stuff in that
Yeah.
people just want to see on TV on the screen. I'm a sucker
Yeah.
for it too. I'm just as bad, but like, don't tell me that the other content is not good and this is all of a sudden better than everything you've ever seen. Like, give me a break, dude.
No, I'll agree with that. I mean, no, I'll stand by with that. But yeah, I'll also just say I loved it. I mean, I won't say it's better than A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi, because without any of those, you wouldn't have this.
Right.
But all I'm trying to say is that I was just so happy to see Boba Fett, like my favorite
Of
Star Wars
course,
character,
man.
kicking ass. Yeah. I mean,
Dude, for long
you know.
before this show came out, I've always been part of the camp of casting Sebastian Stan as a young Luke. I've
Yeah, I
I've
mean,
always
yeah.
been in that, like, since he was since Captain America 2 came out. I've always been, because I was like, wow, because like he looks just like him, and that's why, and all this. I'm like, fuck yeah, man. I would love nothing, like, I would totally accept and kind of wish for an heir to the Empire, trilogy era Star Wars films, and just recast them, dude. Like, seeing the original cast in the sequel trilogy is amazing, but I also understand they're in their 70s, so that's why we didn't get the Luke we wanted to get. Sorry, he's not a young man anymore. I'm fine with that. Recast them, put the guy from Solo, Sebastian Stan, and a woman that looks like Leia. That's a good actress.
Yeah.
Put that, and then bring Lando back from Donald
Glover.
Bring him back as Lando, dude.
Yeah.
I am so on board with that. Like,
Yeah.
I am totally cool with that. And then have them fight Thrawn 5 years after Endor. Totally.
Well,
down.
I will say, I'll say this. Here's this. And I said this to some of my friends a fefew days ago. Time travel exists in Star Wars, so just pull an X-Men, because you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, have you?
No, but I'm surprised they put in are they doing the Terminator-esque strategy of let's go back in time and reset the timeline to make more movies? Is that what they're doing?
No, not so far, but they have that option to do.
Interesting.
And I will say one thing: the only reason you saw Ahsoka Tano is because of time travel. I won't go any more further. I will say Star Wars Rebels looks like a kid's show. First season is very kiddie, but it gets pretty serious after the first season. Like, I really do like that in terms of lore. That's where Thrawn. That's how they brought Grand Admiral Thrawn.
I mean, what I love is they with the new canon, they've had Timothy Zahn write like 3 or 4 new Thrawn books.
I've read all 3 actually.
Oh yeah, they're good.
I have to say they're pretty good. One thing, the second one I didn't like as much because it kind of jumps back into the prequel, the Clone Wars era, and it just talks about his connection with Darth Vader. Wasn't a big fan. I want to see Grand Admiral Thrawn with Star Destroyers doing shit.
Yeah.
But he tied it in, like he made him fit in this new Star Wars, and God bless.
It's not hard. I mean, it really is not hard. The only thing like, basically everything is canon until, like, you talk about in Rey and Kylo. Like, basically, and the people who shit on them are fucking stupid, because Rey is just Jaina Solo. I've talked to you about this, and
yes, you have. Yeah.
Kylo is just Jason Solo. And if you've read the original canon, then you're like, I think that's why original EU fans were okay with the sequel trilogy, because you saw. Because for me, when I'm watching, because I was talking to Ryan Hom about this, when you see Kylo Ren, first off, you're seeing someone struggling with the light, which is so cool. You never got to see that. But like the first time I saw the new one, Force Awakens, I said, "Oh, he's just Jason Solo. That's fine. I'm cool with that." I get it. These people, like, we missed our time frame. I get it. Like, I'm forgiving of it. So, you know where I'm going with it.
No. I mean, it's.
I'm gonna definitely read the Leia books. I need to read Star Wars. It's up on my shelf there. Aftermath. It's like there's a trilogy. After the fall of the Empire, and then like
what's his name? Cobb Bath is in there.
What's that?
The guy Cobb Bath. Is that how you say it? The guy who was wearing Boba's armor in the first season of first episode of the second season.
Oh.
That I believe he's in the trilogy, and it talks about how he got his hands on the armor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to know how they're going to explain that. So we got out of the Sarlacc pit. Obviously.
Yeah. So I mean, look at the guy. He looks beat as shit. He probably had just recovered, and he was ready to go. And then the Mandalorian showed up, and he's like, "Well, here's another layer."
Yeah.
And that goes back like how I think part of the reason I love this episode with Boba, back to him real quick, but it's just that it came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting any of that. I was like, okay, we're going to see maybe he stops. Dude, he's going to stop on Kashyyyk and like help a Wookiee or something. I didn't know what to expect. I had heard a rumor that there were some shots filmed in Slave One. I was like, huh. And then as soon as I saw it in the view, I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So.
I know. It's made Friday very enjoyable. Even without COVID, I'm always looking forward to Friday afternoon to watch the new episode. But Anthony, we have to finish up today. So I want to thank you for coming by, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I think we're booked this weekend at the same time, so I'll be able to see you and say hello.
Oh, heck yeah, man. Well, hey, thanks so much. I mean, this is really, it's great to just, talk about actual some stuff, with someone who knows what's going on.
Sure.
Can I just say one last thing? I want to say
do.
for my upcoming record, I want to give a shout out to my sister Lauren for designing the album artwork.
I know Lauren. I know
Lauren.
Yeah. She designed my record.
Yeah, who's ever listening to this podcast and all the others, that's my sister's artwork. So hit her up. She is really good. Nick, she's just, very talented young lady, and I just want everyone hit her up. So
she doesn't know this. She should. So her artwork is for my album, Mr. Millennial's Revenge, which is what the show is called. So the podcast's artwork, that's Lauren Pellegrini's work. So definitely, I have to second your recommendation. Sister's very talented.
She's great, cool. Man. Really, she's got a lot of good things coming. So anyway, thank you so much, man. Thanks for all the good stuff. I'm looking forward for everyone to hear my upcoming stuff and all your things going. And
yeah, man, it's been great. Thank you so much. And one last man, and we'll see Anthony Pellegrini on the flip side. Thank you so much, dude. Take care. All right, guys. So hope you dug that interview. Episode 10 featuring Anthony Pellegrini in the bag. So excited, guys. This show is certainly taking off. I am incredibly excited because I have my next two guests booked. And the next two episodes will be featuring the next episode will feature my friend and colleague and fellow musician, fellow scene stir, Steve Rogers. And I haven't talked to Steve in forever, so I'm super excited to talk to him. That interview is coming up very soon. And then after that, another musician that I greatly respect, guitarist, bassist, Joe Morris. So the show is picking up. I'm so grateful for the guests I've had and the guests that are lined up. This has been a great milestone with episode 10. It really has. And if you've been listening to 1-2 episodes, I appreciate you. If you've been with me since the beginning, you fucking rock, because that's awesome. And thank you so much for that support. yeah, and and I'm hoping that the show just keeps growing. So we've got the holiday season coming up. I want you guys to be safe, enjoy the holidays, and keep checking us out. This has been Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm your host, Nick DeMaria. This is a production of the New Haven Jazz Underground. See you next time.